Today I am joined by David Feldman. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
And you are a contributing author, and this is like the perfect Coffee with Kevin item because I've done authors, I've done New Orleans, I've done coffee, and so this is a brand new book. You're a contributing author, and it was written by Suzanne Stone, and it is a book about New Orleans coffee. So we're going to be talking all about that. Thank you again for joining us, David. So this book, New Orleans Coffee, A Rich History, this is a book that I'm glad you wrote because if you didn't, I was going to do it. Because there's...
Sorry. Well, you can write another one.
I don't want to write another one. This is great. I don't want to... This is perfect. I just thought when I got into coffee in New Orleans, and obviously as you've seen the show and know what I do, and as you know too, I definitely... was shocked that there was no history of New Orleans coffee business books or anything written. Did that shock you too? That was shocking to me.
Yeah, given how vibrant the current
huge.
Coffee is, and the part that New Orleans coffee or coffee coming through New Orleans played in the development of the country, I too was shocked.
I was shocked. I thought there should have been a book. And not just historically it's big, but today it's big. New Orleans is still one of the largest coffee importing, and you could probably give me the numbers. One third of the coffee
that comes into America comes in through the port of New Orleans. We have the largest coffee silo cap down in Chop. We have the largest coffee roasting plant in the world in Folgers. We have Dupuis, which is a huge warehousing.
One of the largest stockpiles of coffee.
Exactly.
It's funny that people don't know that, and even me growing up in the city, when I first saw, I was in, college when I first saw green coffee and I was fascinated. And so of course that got me into, got me into coffee. And also, let me say this. Yeah, and I gotta plug myself here. So I'm actually in this book. I met Suzanne. She came in and interviewed me. There I am here with the espresso machine, and then also you've got a great shot of the. You've got a great shot of the antique coffee roaster.
Yeah.
So that's one of our trademarks at Coast Roast is our old antique machine that's been roasting coffee forever and ever.
Well, they haven't messed up the coffee from Ethiopia or Guatemala or Honduras. This is where the magic happens.
Exactly. So obviously, look, that's my roaster.
That's
here
your
it is.
roaster.
Clearly, I'm interested in the history of coffee.
Yes.
How did you get? How did you get involved in this project?
Well, Suzanne Stone and I were fellow students at the Friends of the Cabildo tour guide class.
Oh, okay.
We became close friends, and she wrote a blog post for one of the tour companies that she works for, and an editor at the History Press saw the blog post and approached her about writing a book on the history of coffee in New Orleans for their Silver Palette series, which has to do with food and coffee in different cities. And she invited me to take part in the project. And we went off, and a year later,
there's the book
was published.
Yeah, y'all, she came, it wasn't that long ago to talk to her. Y'all cranked it out.
Right.
It's awesome.
Right.
And then, so what's like, so obviously once you started to dive into it, I'm sure you found all kind of stuff about coffee that you didn't know.
Well,
no?
Yes.
Yes.
Actually,
So
my experience with coffee was what most people's experience with coffee was. Mom brought home Maxwell House or 8 o'clock. They weren't really big coffee drinkers. I drank coffee, but I drank it to kickstart my day, to wake me up. And then a barista here in New Orleans suggested I try an Ethiopian coffee.
Gotcha.
And it was a pour over. It took forever.
I
thought it took forever.
It did. It did. I'm not.
And she did it with such care that I was too embarrassed to put my usual half and half and sugar in it.
Oh yeah.
Then I sipped it, and the aromas.
So you were normally.
And the taste just blew me away. And I went back to her after I finished, and I said, that was a great cup of coffee. And she gifted me a package of this Ethiopian. So I went home and I bought a little grinder and I started to make my own. And that was my aha coffee moment.
Yeah.
Okay, it was pretty recent, as a matter of fact. Then the book opportunity came along, and I realized not only was there a world of coffee in the cup, but there was the whole world history in that cup.
Yep.
And from there, it kind of took off. All right, I just got pretty much involved. You know, coffee's the second most traded commodity in the world after oil.
It's huge.
It's huge.
So because it's such a commodity, it becomes, like you're saying, there are many people that just think coffee's coffee, and I pick up coffee wherever it is, and it's just a commodity.
Right.
And while it very much is a commodity, there are definitely different aspects of coffees that are grown in different regions and how it's roasted and all that create different flavors for different uses. And actually, I'm working on a presentation I'm going to give to a group soon about that. You know, it's like, look, you're not going to serve a red wine with a fish, or or the white wine with a steak or whatever. You're going to pair it properly, and coffee's the same way.
Well, it's in a lot of ways, specialty coffee, which is the business that you're in, is very similar to wine.
Oh, yeah.
In terms of how you treat it, where it's grown, how you roast it, you end up with a unique product.
Even some of my clients that are not in the specialty world, for sure, that I sell to, it's about, for me, matching that flavor profile with what the end user is going to do. And the expectation, right? You would expect the coffee at a gas station to be not as good as a coffee at a restaurant, but then you'd expect the coffee at my coffee shop to be better than the coffee at the restaurant. So it's about sliding that, making that right adjustment, and it's amazing. So is that that was your aha moment? So now are you just totally an Ethiopian drinker? Is that your total?
No. As a matter of fact, I try all different coffees, trying to discern the differences in them, what the roaster was attempting to do with the coffee, because it's his signature.
Yeah.
The various coffees are the roaster's signature. And basically I try to stay abreast of what's happening in the coffee world generally, especially here in New Orleans, because it's an ever-expanding universe here in the city, and the individuals like yourself who are involved in it are very passionate about it.
It's not just the product for me that I'm passionate about. It's the community that the coffee fosters. Now, obviously, I do a lot of coffee. My history,
right?
And I think a lot of the people that watch the show do as well. I'm very involved in making all kinds of different coffees, but for me, what got me into coffee was the passion around the coffee, and also the community that the coffee shops make. Before there was social media, people were just social.
That was it, and that's been going on since the early coffees at the tip of the Arabian Peninsula.
Yeah, that
1,800 years ago, or not that long, but about 1,500 years ago. The coffee shop, from the very beginning, wherever coffee expanded. Trouble brewed in the coffee shops.
Yeah?
Yeah, they had to close them periodically. All right. And that's an aspect of it. People drink coffee to kickstart their day. They drink coffee for the flavors and the aromas, and they drink coffee for the social experience. That pretty much covers
the whole
coffee
thing.
drinkers.
That's it. So you have an English degree. You're like me. I have an English degree as well. So that's why I say I'm a barista,
Right. That's true.
We all have English degrees, so we're in coffee.
Right.
But you also do a lot of tours around town, huh?
I do. I do tours for the savvy native. I do specialty tours for the most part.
And I'll send me some links. I'll put the links below so people can.
Okay. I do a JFK assassination tour. New Orleans was responsible for the patsy, for the fall guy. I do a and Bohemians Literary Tour, and a new tour, Tours for Matures, walking tours for people like me, well-seasoned people.
Older folks?
Older
Seasoned.
people, we designed the tour for their comfort, for their safety. People who wouldn't think of perhaps taking a 2-hour walking tour. We have a nice rest stop involved in the middle of it.
Absolutely.
So that they have a half hour to socialize over
a
coffee.
over a cup of coffee?
Yes.
Imagine that.
Yeah.
So, New Orleans coffee, a rich history. Definitely, nobody knows. In my experience, nobody knows what goes into coffee.
Right.
You know, it's so you definitely want to check the book out. And if you love New Orleans, if you love coffee, this is a book that needed to be written. I told Suzanne that. I was like, thank you for writing this book because
Well, you're welcome. We hope it'll be successful.
I'm sure it's just going to be so successful. People love coffee. People love New Orleans. This is the only one like it. You need to get it. New Orleans Coffee, A Rich History. You're not going to be, and you can Google. I'm going to put the links down because I'm sure you'll have a social media. Y'all do tours. You got book signings and
Right.
stuff around town at some local coffee shops and whatnot as well. So definitely,
Well, thank you.
definitely check it out. But yeah, and you can read all about me.
Yes, you can read
all
all about Kevin in there, and it's a really interesting story.
There is stories in here that the viewers don't know.
Yes,
about
there
me.
are.
So
There's a very interesting story.
it's
He learned it
yeah,
from the bottom up,
exactly. That is true.
and he had some great mentors.
I did absolutely.
Yes.
David, thank you so much for coming. I appreciate it. Take care.